Anil sir, Mr. Anil Kathat.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Okay. Sir, now it's 11. We can
Okay,
start
okay.
our program.
A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the third and last day of the training program on media and disaster management. In last 2 days, our experts highlighted the crucial role media have in disaster management. Mainstreaming the media in course of disaster management can help in enhancing the public awareness and boosting their understanding apropos of hazard warning, its risks, consequences, and the precautionary measures to be followed for safety. Media also provided helping hand to our disaster management authorities in rescue and relief operations. I hope all the lectures were productive and constructive for all the participants in enhancing their understanding towards disaster management. Today, we will be having three speakers who will share their experiences and expertise on early warning, communication of disasters, procedures, roles, responsibilities of different stakeholders, rumor management, ethics in disaster communication, and national guidelines on disaster communication. The experts who will be joining us today include Brigadier Ajay Gangwar, Advisor Operations and Communication National Disaster Management Authority, Professor K.G. Suresh, Emeritus Professor, APJ Satya University, and Mr. Raju Thapa, Young Professional, GMR Division, National Institute of Disaster Management. Before inviting the first speaker of the day, there are some instructions to the participants. Participants who have any query can share their query through a Q&A box. We will take questions after each expert's lecture rather than after all the three presentations as we have been doing for last 2 days. So share your questions through question Q&A box and please avoid spamming Q&A box with greetings. Now, I introduce our first speaker of the day. The first lecture will be by Brigadier Ajay Gangwar. He is Advisor, Operations and Communication, National Disaster Management Authority. He will be sharing his experiences and expertise on different facets of media, communication, and disaster management. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Anil. Very good morning to you all. My compliments to NIDM for organizing this very timely and relevant training session on media and disaster management. And a very special thanks to Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, the Executive Director, NIDM, for affording me the opportunity to share my thoughts on the subject that I'm going to speak on today. My talk is going to be on early warning dissemination. The talks over the last 2 days have been very educative. They have covered very important facets of the topic, and my job has been made all the more difficult as I have been preceded by some very learned experts who have done full justice to the topics at hand. I will make an endeavor not to repeat what they have covered. So let me share with you some issues related to early warning dissemination to the public. I would begin with two disclaimers. The views that I express today are my personal views and do not necessarily reflect the thinking of my organization, the NDMA. Second, I do not claim to have answers to all the issues that I will discuss today. So with this, let me begin. I will try and finish in 25 minutes so that it leaves some time for question answers. I have a presentation of couple of slides. Mr. Anil, can you confirm whether my presentation is visible?
Not yet, sir, but it sharing. It's showing that your content is sharing.
Okay. Can you confirm to me once it's visible?
Yes, sir, I will confirm. Now it's visible, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let me quickly start. There is no denying the fact that both our ability and quality of forecast and prediction of hazards has improved manifold. Today, we are in a position to forecast cyclones up to 96 hours in advance. Our prediction of the landfall is highly accurate. We've got laurels from the other countries also for our quality and accuracy of landfall prediction. We are in a position to reliably predict storm surges, high wave alerts. We can detect tsunamis as it starts. We are the leaders in this region in this aspect. It gives some reaction time to the coastal communities. Our prediction of rainfall is fairly accurate. We have made advances in thunderstorm and lightning prediction. To some extent, we can predict areas where avalanche and landslides are going to occur. And like this, many more hazards, our capability and quality of prediction has improved. Now, the mitigatory impact of this improvement in forecast and prediction will multiply many folds if the early warning of these hazards is delivered to the masses, the public, well in time and reliably. And this should obviously be done in the language that the person understands and through the media to which he has ready access. Let us now see these two important requisites in some more detail, that is the timely delivery and the reliable delivery. The decision to disseminate early warning must be taken at the appropriate level. Now, this goes without saying. Now, should the early warning dissemination be centralized? It is a difficult question to answer. Early warnings may be issued by the regional centers of the early warning agencies, or they could be issued by the headquarters themselves. But this depends on the faith that the organization has in its subordinate units, as well as the resources at the regional level, the computing resources and the other models that have to be run. If they are available at the regional level, then yes, it could be decentralized to the regional centers. Another aspect is that should this decision of early warning dissemination be with the early warning agency, the agency who does the forecasting and prediction, or should it be with the state executive? This is not as easily answered as one would think. In some cases, like prediction for lightning and heavy rainfall, this may be directly issued by the early warning agency. But in other cases, for example, where large scale evacuation is needed, like cyclones or floods, the decision may be that of the state executive. Another issue is that whether the reaction time that is available to you has bearing on the issue of who issues the early warning. It most certainly does. In case of a tsunami, the early warning agency must themselves issue the warning, as the reaction time which is available to the coastal communities is very less. Another issue is that the delivery, for the timely delivery of early warning, the delivery must be automatic and it should have minimal manual intervention. Manual intervention creates overheads. There is a finite time which human decisions take. Machine decisions are faster. The formats and the protocol for the early warning need to be standardized ab initio. As many as possible contingencies need to be wargamed and addressed in the SOPs that we have made. The persons who are on duty, who are responsible to issue alerts should not be looking for decisions at critical times. The standard responses that are there and the formats will, the standardized formats will cut down this reaction time of these people who are on duty, who are responsible to issue early warning alerts. Coming to the second requisite for is the reliable delivery. It is important that the early warning must be delivered to the affected audience, and the spillage to the unaffected areas must be avoided to the extent possible. Obviously, it should minimize confusion. This is important to minimize confusion and avoid panic. This is possible for some media that you would use to deliver early warning, and it is not possible with the others. For example, targeted SMS-based dissemination, you can very well follow this, that it reaches only the intended audience. But if there is a broadcast over a radio, perhaps there would be spillages to adjoining areas, because you never know where the radio waves go, to what distance they travel. The delivery should be through the medium to which the target audience has got ready access, both before and during the disaster that has happened. And this is important because the state agencies need to continue to engage with the public throughout the disaster. And some means of this dissemination, some mediums may not be available once the disaster hits the community. For example, if it's an earthquake, your landlines will get affected, your mobile towers will fall down. So some of the means that you are using for dissemination and engaging with the public during this crisis may no longer be available to you. Now, it is also important that there is redundancy. You know, different people may have access to different medium. And so this early warning needs to be issued through more than one medium. So what are these mediums that you can issue these early warnings? So I have just tried, this is not a comprehensive list, but this is the list that I would be discussing with you. The pros and cons of each of these, some thoughts about each of these media, that is mediums that are available for dissemination of early warning. Coming to mobile phones, you know, there are multiple ways. It's a very versatile medium, and there are multiple ways in which mobile phones can be used for early warning dissemination. They can be used for early warning dissemination for through the SMSs. Now, there are two ways in which the SMS technology can be used. You know, the first method is to use SMS gateways. SMS gateways with a predefined list of numbers to which you want to send the early warning. Now, this is the most commonly used as this is most easily implemented. But the flip side is that its reach is limited. The other way is through the telecom service providers, TSPs, for all their subscribers that are currently in the selected geographical area. So this is the second way in which you can disseminate SMSs. And this is a more complex method which needs huge resources, but is very effective and has got a much wider reach. But this method needs institutional and statutory framework for its implementation. There is another method through which the mobiles can be used, and that method is called the cell broadcast. It's an expensive technology, and not all the TSPs are currently ready in the country are currently ready to implement this. This also needs regulatory intervention because you need to override the DND of the subscribers, and also, there is a need to affect changes to the softwares of the mobile. You know, this feature of cell broadcast is part of your mobile software, but at the moment it is deactivated for India in most of the phones, and this needs to get activated through the OEM of the mobile phones. Now, the third method that I've listed, that I've tried to think about in which the mobiles can be used for early warning disseminations, is through apps, and there's some very good examples of these apps which are currently there, like the Damani app. There is the Vajra app, and these apps are slowly coming of age. They're improving by the day. The newer versions are coming. One immediate improvement that one can readily implement for in the usage of these apps, is the alert to the subscriber. Today, it's a very polite alert. It's just a notification, that comes to you on your phone. Now, the alert to the subscriber in the affected geographical area must not be polite. It needs to be a little disruptive, especially if immediate action is required to be taken. How else would you alert a farmer who's working in his fields? He may have a phone which is there in his pocket, or kept at a slight distance away. So unless the alert is slightly disruptive in nature, allowed to attract your attention, it is not of much use in such scenarios. So this is one area where these apps can immediately improve their effectiveness. There is another innovative way that has emerged for delivery of early warning related messages through the mobiles, and that is the use of caller tunes. This has been very effectively demonstrated during the ongoing COVID pandemic. Although the usage could be much better, the messages could be more targeted, the repetitions could come down. So the present implementation can be improved, but this is an effective way. It's an innovative way in which the mobiles can be used for early warning dissemination. We could use televisions. There are two types: direct to home and cable TV. Both have got different pros and cons. While the DTH was initially meant for remote locations, but it can be seen very commonly in urban landscapes. It suffers from the drawback of blackouts during inclement weather. Cable TV, which is the older technology, which was the analog technology, has now come of age. It's digital, it's on fiber, and it has got greater bandwidth, better reach, and it's more resilient to idiosyncrasies of the weather. Each type has got different feed points where the EW alerts could be, inserted. There is another dimension to this medium. While this medium can be used by early warning agencies to issue alerts by way of tickers and banners, it is already being used by news channels to bring to their viewers breaking news about impending as well as happening disasters. We found in some of the recent disasters, you must have noticed last month, there was a landslide disaster, there was an aviation disaster. Within minutes, the information was available on the news channel, and the alert was being fed to the TV subscribers. I have listed the radio separately. Why? Because both are broadcast mediums. Major issue, the challenge of the radio is slightly different from the television, and the major issue is that there is an additional step where the text message has to be effectively converted into audio. And this technology, presently, the state of this technology is not so effective as we are made to believe. And the complexity of the challenge also increases with the requirement of converting this text into different languages of India. We've got different region, different languages. So if you have to have a targeted early warning message, then it has to be done in different language. Another challenge is that the different radio stations in the country are today using different technologies, which necessitate the use of different interface boxes. These set-top boxes which would have to be made, the black boxes to interface with your early warning dissemination platform needs to be designed for each of these individual radio stations. Electronic signages, where would you find these electronic signages? They have been installed in communities. They have been installed by the NHA on the highways. They are available in radio stations. So this is an important medium that can be used. They can be used connected through the mobile-based internet, the GPRS technology, or it could be a physical line. I'm running out of time, so I would speed up a little bit. Community sirens are there. You can use them both for single multi-frequency alarms or for audio messages. They are satellite-based systems. These are required and they are very useful for remote locations which are beyond the reach of conventional systems. Like fishermen at high sea or people who are staying in high altitude or remote jungles, they are very effective. And there are some systems like NABM and Gagan that are available for such dissemination. Social media, we could use WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter. These kind of social media can be used, and they could be two different models for this usage. One is that a little passive model where people could subscribe and follow to certain groups or channels, and then they get the notifications or they get the alerts from there. Or we can engage with the owners of these social media platforms, and we can request them to use their databases to deliver to its subscribers, all subscribers in that affected geographical area, a service message through these platforms. Then there is internet, websites, RSS, atom-based alerts, feeds, and other medium is there. Print media we should not forget for hazards which have got latency like cyclones, floods. This medium is still very effective. Now, how many of these mediums are currently being used in the country? So that is a question that I have attempted to find out. We have the satellite-based terminals are there, of course. Like I mentioned, the NABM is there, the Gagan systems are there. These are being used very effectively in some areas of the country to give warning to the fishermen at high seas. This is a relatively newer thing, just a year or two old. Then we have these websites and social media feeds of the early warning agencies, and I have observed that this is one area which needs, a very serious upgradation and standardization across the early warning agencies, as well as, the technology that they're using in their websites and the programming and all that is there. The APIs that they're using, it needs a serious upgradation. And of course, we have TV news channels, we have the print media. So these are the very commonly available means of early warning dissemination in the country. There are also SMS-based early warning dissemination existing in some states of the country. Examples would include the TN Smart app in Tamil Nadu is using a predefined list to send alerts, and Orissa has implemented through its location-based alert system. This is done through one of the TSPs, that is the BSNL. It is part of the NDMA's NCRMP project. They're using this system to send alerts in a geographical area where the BSNL subscribers are there to the BSNL subscribers. Okay, and not much progress with other TSPs in Orissa. BSNL is the prime this thing. Now, this suffers what the present implementation suffer from certain problems, and let me quickly recap these problems. You need to interface. If you have to use mobiles effectively, you have to interface with multiple telecom service providers, which is an issue. And we have to also consider the cost of SMS delivery because the TSPs cannot indefinitely deliver free SMSs. There's a cost involved. Then each TSP has a finite delivery rate at which, a bandwidth which it can, deliver. So that is presently one of the choke points. Just to give you an idea, some of the TSPs can deliver, about 6,000, 10,000 SMSs a minute. So there would be a delay. There will be an inherent delay in the SMSs. If it is in a wide geographical area, will queue up and there will be delay. And now language issues are not very serious concern because SMSs can very easily be crafted in regional language scripts. But there would be congestion in traffic. Once the disaster has happened, the traffic will increase and then the delivery rate will probably go down. And this technology, the survivability of this technology, especially during hazards like cyclones and earthquakes, is highly suspect. So you need to have alternate mediums also as available to you. I have just very quickly tried to list the various issues that are there, and I would like to inform that the National Disaster Management Authority is trying to address these issues of early warning dissemination to the public holistically through its project, which is the Common Alerting Protocol project. Now, this is a topic for another time, but suffice to say that we have done a pilot project with limited scope in Tamil Nadu, which is near completion. And the detailed project report for the holistic implementation is for the entire country is in advanced stages. With this, my time is up, and I have left about 7-8 minutes for fielding any questions that you might have. Over to you, Mr. Anil.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing importance of early warning dissemination and impact of coming disaster. Various tools that can be used to disseminate early information of disaster issues, challenges related to early warning dissemination, and also options to overcome those issues and challenges. We have some few questions. Number one is,
yeah, Mr. Anil, how do I take the questions?
sir, I will repeat the question for the participant and then you can answer. So first question is, what is the legal framework for role of media in disaster management?
Can you hear me, Mr. Anil?
The first question for you is, what is the legal framework for role of media in disaster management? Are you there, sir? Ajay, sir? Sir, we are not able to hear you. I think we have lost. He's not connected with us right now. Okay, we will move to our next speaker. Certainly, media and communication aid in managing the disaster, but at the same time, its misuse in spreading rumors can create trouble by misleading people and resulting in chaos. So, rumor management is utmost important during any crisis situation. And to enlighten more on this subject, I would invite Professor K.G. Suresh. He is a senior journalist and communication specialist. Professor Suresh is currently serving as founder dean, School of Modern Media, University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Dehradun. Earlier, he has served as Director General, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, India's premier media training institute, senior consulting editor with Doordarshan News, India's public news broadcaster, editorial consultant with Asianet News Network, chief political correspondent with Press Trust of India, and group media advisor to Dalmia Bharat Enterprises Limited. He has recently been named for the prestigious Ganesh Sankar Vidyarthi Award for outstanding contribution to journalism by Kendriya Hindi Sansthan, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. Yes, sir. Professor K.G. Suresh, over to you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
For the introduction. welcome. Very good morning to all of you, Brigadier Gangwar and all the eminent panelists who are present here, and Mr. Subhya Prakash, Mr. Thapa, Raju Thapa, and others, and even I manage and also broadcast multimedia Bharati, and great connecting on platform once again. So this is a very important. I mean, you have, I would say, organized this at a time when the entire world is going through a major disaster, and that's COVID-19, and we have seen perhaps this is the most unprecedented crisis humanity is facing, and for a communication specialist, also for all of us who are in the business of communication, I believe this is a big challenge, the biggest challenge we have ever faced in our lifetime. We have seen floods, we have seen cyclones, we have seen earthquakes, and but I believe that this is something that we have never seen. We have seen, I would say, a pandemic also, but not a pandemic of this scale. Nobody has seen. And a challenge for governments, for health specialists, for multilateral organizations, and of course, media, and all of us who are engaged in media studies, in mass communication. And today I have been given this very important topic, that is rumor management and ethics in disaster communication. I would say that there could not have been a more relevant topic at this time, and my compliments to to the NIDM and NABM, the organizers, for having this very important discussion. Friends, let me come straight away. Rumor. What is a rumor? Let's be very clear. We often tend to confuse between rumor and gossips. Gupshup and afwah, so to say. This is something we should very clearly understand. Rumor is not necessarily a somebody doing it for the sake of fun. Somebody is doing it to mock at others, unlike a gossip, which is primarily office gossip, neighborhood gossip. Rumors, if by the Collins dictionary of rumors, rumor is a story or a piece of information which may or may not be true. So to dismiss all rumors as untrue would also be a big mistake as communicators. It could be anything. I still remember vividly, it was late in the evening in my office when I received a call on my, on the desk. Those days you didn't have mobile phones. And I picked up the phone, and somebody from the other end loudly shouted that there is fire coming down from the sky. And he just was not able to explain. Somehow he had the number of my office. At that time, I was working with PTI, Press Trust of India. And I initially thought that some insane character, senile character who was called up, because he appeared to be a rustic person who could not even communicate properly, and he was just saying something is falling from the sky. And I vividly remember, that, and after that, the line got disconnected. We didn't take it lightly. We followed it up. We could not from the fire control, anything from the police, anything from the air traffic control. And finally, from our sources in the Air Force, we got to know that this was India's worst air disaster, the mid-air pollution, at Charkhi Dadri. Now, and well, we rush to the spot to cover it as journalists. Now, why I'm telling you is that it could be in the form of, it could come out of, as I said, rumor is a story or piece of information that may or may not be true, but that people are talking about. That's what a rumor is. And rumor, interestingly, I found that rumor, the word itself has somewhere, it could be attributed even to a Sanskrit origin, that's a raut, or that means to cry, that's how it is. So why is there a rumor in the first place? We should understand that. I know there is a paucity of time. I need to wind up in 30 minutes flat. So let me come quickly. Why is there a rumor? A rumor happens because there is an absence of credible communication. It's as simple as that. So when there is no formal communication, rumors start floating. It could be in your office. It could be, in your, neighborhood. It could be anywhere. Rumors start spreading in the absence of a formal communication. Rumors begin when there is, uncertainty, lack of clarity. When you have ambiguity, when it's ambiguous, then the scope is limited. But when there is ambiguity, then people tend to believe in rumors because there is no clarity. So this also we need to understand. Fourth, one reason why people indulge in rumors, apart from some sadistic pleasure some people may derive, generally rumors are because of the insecurity. For example, these days in every industrial organization, if you go, you will hear rumors about possible retrenchment, possible salary cuts, further salary cuts, job loss, closures. These are something because there is a deep sense of insecurity that whether, I will lose my job. There's an economic slowdown. I mean, how will it impact me? So much of insecurity is there. So from insecurity, you start. So somebody calls up and says that, look, management is thinking of something like this. So, you start believing in that. And out of concern, and not necessarily rumors are, spread deliberately for the purpose of mischief. It could be out of concern. I have a concern for a fellow, colleague. So I inform him, look, boss, I am told, we have come to know. I mean, these are general words. Humne suna hai, that's the general thing that comes. So, and this is because they don't want to, of course, obviously reveal their sources, but they also want to confirm it, whether it's true or not. That's one of the objectives. And of course, disseminating their concerns to a fellow also. So let's not look at rumors totally in a negative way. We have to, look at it with a lot of, understanding why it is floated. It is not always the mischief maker who does it. So we need to, separate the wheat from the chaff. That's very important from a communication perspective. And yes, rumors are also there when there is an impending change. When you believe that, right now the entire world is going through an inflection point. An inflection point is where something, when either it can be a catalyst and it can change everything. It's a transformational point, or it can lead to a kind of collapse. So we are at a strategic inflection point. And when we are at an inflection point, when major changes are expected in everything, in every walk of life, then you believe that, then there is a scope for rumors, because you believe that anything can happen. Anything is possible. Everything is possible. So you do not know. I mean, yesterday, the Punjab government announced shutdown. I mean, things were limping back to normalcy. Then there's a surge in the number of cases, and they immediately shut down. So anything can happen anytime. Till the time the vaccine is found, you can have n number of shutdowns, lockdowns, closures. Anything can happen. So what does it mean? It means that there is a lot of an impending changes there, and you are not. So, and of course, there is rumor when it is going to directly impact you. So job loss is something that will impact you. A flood is something that will impact you if you are in the villages, if you are there near Brahmaputra, or you are near the Kosi, wherever it is. Or if you're in a seismic zone. I mean, we were in Delhi. I mean, till few days back, and you had a series of tremors, and people were shaken. What's going to happen? So many tremors had not taken place in such a short span of time. So there was a need for clarity, and I'm glad that some media houses, actually communicated that this is due to this is due to certain disturbances that is now shifting towards another zone, and there is very unlikely to be any major earthquake or something like that. Now that kind of a message from the scientific community, I thought that helped calm down. Otherwise, every third day, fourth day, there was a tremor, and people would just rush out of their homes. And that too during these COVID times, it only added to the. So today you have in our country, you have landslides happening, you have a plane crash happening in Kerala, you have floods across the country, waterlogging in big cities. I mean, you name it, disasters are all around you. And of course, the biggest disaster is COVID. So in this situation, it is but natural that, rumors would be there. Now, how to counter it? Of course, it needs a full session, but just to put it in the, kind of the gist of it, is that communication. This is the only way to quell rumors, right or wrong. If there is a rumor, what I told you, I mean, I got a call, which was very unverified. It could have been a prankster. But the first thing I did was to kind of call up, cross-check, and it turned out to be true. So it could be a piece of information which might have been exaggerated, but there could be something in that. So it is, very imperative for each one of us to cross-check whether, there is anything. Let's not dismiss it outrightly. Let's cross-check. And then what is the enormity of it? And then it has to be immediately communicated. And this has become all the more important in the age of social media. Now, I remember, say, during the 84 riots, I was in Delhi, and I remember there were all kinds of rumors. There were rumors that, what the water tank has been poisoned. There were rumors that you had, some troops who have rebelled, and all that kind of stories were. Now, there were some issues at the regimental center, but then it was all controlled. But then the way these things float, and remember at that time there was no social media. And today you have seen in the last couple of months the kind of, damage social media. I'm all for social media. I'm not holding any brief against the social media. I teach social media. I'm active myself on social media. I believe that social media is a democratized media, but there are aspects of social media which we need to understand. So when social media, there is an issue, that unverified, unsubstantiated information is being floated. Unlike the so-called mainstream media, where there is a very strong editorial process or a process of gatekeeping, is actively done. Social media is somewhere where anybody can just walk in and put whatever it feels like. And in the process, a lot of people, it's a lot of people who are putting out a lot of things based on rumors. I heard this has happened. And something like, and imagine some of the senior most journalists are falling prey. In the last few days, I've seen 2 topmost journalists falling prey to that kind of rumors. Somebody even that our very respected former president Pranab Mukherjee is no more. I mean, and then they, of course, apologized and they admitted that it was a big mistake on their part. But if senior journalists can fall prey to such rumors, you can imagine what can happen to the ordinary people. And that's what exactly you saw, during the lockdown, where you had hundreds and thousands of people rushing to the Delhi UP border, hundreds and thousands of migrants who were actually, at the Bandra railway station, because there were rumors that buses have started, trains have started, and you have seen all kinds of rumors happen. And even today, there is no dearth of rumors, about if you go to a particular area, you will be quarantined, you will be, So I think that it's very important that, that we disseminate credible information which is available on the, fingertip. Now, for example, I am right now in Dehradun, and sitting in Uttarakhand, I have friends who have come to know that I am in Uttarakhand, and they are calling me up to say, we want to travel to Dehradun, how do we go about it? But then not necessarily everybody has a friend. So the first thing they do is that they Google. So can I ensure that, there is enough information put out by my department, my, concern, that to travel to Dehradun, these are the rules currently, the updated rules, that 1 week there is a quarantine, a self-quarantine, or an institutional quarantine. I'm just giving you an example. And then, so that people know, they don't get caught up that, they just land up and then they are put in quarantine. They should be prepared for it. So I think that that's very important, that we have credible, reliable information which is available. Now, all kinds of rumors are there. This social media is something that's 24/7. You can deny something which has appeared in the press, and they may come up with this denial. But what about something that comes with the social media, on a social media platform? So you cannot be individually dealing with each and every. So it's important that you're constantly on your toes. And that is the biggest challenge before disaster management bodies. That's a biggest challenge before, people who are in media, who are actually dealing, that we put out things so fast. So the first rule is communicate, communicate, communicate. The second rule is, to actually disseminate, at a very fast speed. So fast. People are communicating all the time, round the clock. Even at midnight, if you see your WhatsApp, you will find that so many people are posting in the groups, as if sometimes I wonder whether people don't sleep at all. They are just, and by the time in the morning when you actually open up your WhatsApp, the hundreds of them, and you have slept only at midnight, and you've woken up in the morning, and hundreds of messages have already landed up. That means that, people are round the clock communicating. But when they are communicating, it's not necessarily that they are communicating credible information, they're communicating reliable information. That is the biggest challenge in a disaster situation, when people have fears, deep insecurities, they're not sure what's happening around them, and they tend to share a lot of information that could lead to chaos and confusion, and make it difficult for law enforcement agencies, disaster management bodies, who could really, be in a very, I would say, soup, if, we are not alert. Now, the other issue is that, of course, in a situation, you need to take all help. People are, of course, sometimes in a flood situation, people may not be having their, charged mobile phones. How to reach out to them? We need to come out with innovative, but, the mobile may not be working, but the rumors do keep floating. So you need to have radios in place. You need to have, radio plays a very important role. Community radios, transistors with batteries, they play a lot of role. People do have them, and people are listening to them. People take it in the field. So radio is a very powerful medium. I'm sure many people from radio are present here. My friend Rajiv Shukla had also addressed you. So I think that radio is something which is very powerful, which we need kind of which is something not dependent either on electricity or on bandwidth. So that's a very powerful medium. It could be a ham radio, it could be any radio. So let's not we will have to really look at these things. One more thing which is very critical, I believe that just 5 minutes I will conclude, is that it is very important that there is a third party endorsement. That's very important to scotch rumors. It's just not important that you are there. It's important that there are stakeholders who are there to defend it. I would say to endorse the truth. For example, I would say that there may be a rumor in a particular situation, like I remember the Kashmir floods, where there were rumors that the armed forces are only interested in in rescuing the foreigners. Sorry, the Indians. In some places, it is about foreigners. They are only interested in bringing the rest of Indians who have gone from different parts of the country, and they are not interested in rescuing the local Kashmiris. That kind of stories even appeared in the mainstream media in Kashmir. Now, this is a big challenge. This was not, army was actually rescuing every person it was finding on the street. It was absolutely wrong to, and this was a narrative which was deliberately floated by mischief makers, rumors that the army is only rescuing tourists, people who have come from abroad and people who have come from other states, and not the locals who are stuck up. Obviously, people who had their own homes, they had taken shelter upstairs, whereas the tourists were absolutely in some hotels and other places. Now, at that time, it was important, and who will say this? If the army says it, army spokesman says this, good enough. But it's also important that local Kashmiris who were rescued also say that, yes, we have been rescued by the armed forces, because armed forces were doing a wonderful job. So they would say our Jawans were, had rescued us. So I think that endorsement is also important when the actual people who have been, there's a fire situation, there's a flood, there's an earthquake, when rumors are there, it is people at the ground level. So it's important. I have always insisted in all my sessions at NIDM, at NDMA, wherever I've gone. I also teach at the Special Center for Disaster Research. I teach the communication model there at JNU. And there also, I have been very particular that communication has to be an integral part of the, disaster management process. You cannot have communication later. A communication team has to be with you. You have to record everything. It's important. Please remember, just quick last point, that seeing is believing. So if you go to a situation, take a video, your team should be equipped. These days, mobile phones allow you to do that. A good quality mobile phone allows you to do that. Disaster management teams should have, if they are sending, say, about 25 people on the boots on the ground, let 1 or 2 persons also be trained in every, I'm talking about every state, central, every, that they should capture whatever they are doing. We saw that, we have been hearing about all encounters and all the law and order collapse and all that situation. And in the midst of all that came this beautiful story I was watching on television, where, in a particular city in Uttar Pradesh, I believe it's Mathura or Agra, where, a bus got stuck in an underpass, and the waters entered that bus, and you had policemen wading through neck-deep water and rescuing each and every person. But somebody was, intelligent enough to record that entire thing. It just did not only highlight how the law and order machinery was helping the common people, but I believe that it helped in a way even refurbish the brutal image that was being portrayed of a trigger-happy, encounter-happy police force. which the human face of a police force was also shown there, wherein you had policemen actually risking their lives, beyond the call of their duty, actually wading through neck-deep water and rescuing each and every person stuck in that path. They could have said it's the job of the fire brigade, not my job, but they did it, and it was shown. Now, I think that happened because the television cameras were obviously not there, because somebody was recording it. Somebody had he might not have received the training. Because this video is very important. People are asking for proof, evidence. People are become educated. People are asking for evidence. And you saw that, whether it's an international surgical strike or anything, people say that, well, where is it? They ask for it. Let's face it. So we saw actually the Rafales flying in the skies. So now the Air Force is also recording even it entered India. We saw for hours together till it reached Ambala Air Base. We saw how it was being recorded till it landed at the air base. Everything was being recorded. So those all high-end cameras have been, so everything, because that is important to kill this rumor mongering. It is important to scotch the speculations. It's important. So video is a very, very powerful medium wherein you can actually show this is what has happened. I can go on. I also need to speak about the ethics part of it, but very quickly, I would just say that, the most important thing is empathy. If somebody is asking you that humne to ye suna hai, so instead of shouting back at kahan se suna hai, kind of, let's understand his insecurities. That's why I talked about the reasons behind it. And then that empathy is there. It's important to listening. That's very important. And I think that's part of that ethics in communication. It's part of that ethics in disaster communication. It's important that we are honest and we are very accurate in the information that we give. Let's not mislead. That's something that is, the ethics of communication, that we need to communicate very honestly, very transparently, very accurately. That's very important. So truthfulness has to be the core. And I would say that tolerance is there. We need to be very culturally sensitive because we are in a rainbow nation, a diverse country with multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multi-linguistic people. So it's very important that every word that comes out, is very inclusive, is something that is very accommodative, and that talks about acceptance, and communicates in a way where the empathy is reflected, that this is a communication. I empathize. I'm not doing any favor, but I'm empathizing with what's happening around. I am there putting myself in the shoes of the victims, people who are affected. I'm there in their shoes. I know time is up. Sorry for being short. No options. Maybe next time. Thank you to NIDM and NABM for inviting me. I love the interactive section. Thank you. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you, Anil.
Thank you, sir, for providing insights on rumors, reasons, ways they can spread, and their management as well. Time is crucial factor in disaster management. Rumors spread due to the death of credible and reliable information, hampering the various operations of disaster management. So we need to take strict actions against such culprits who spread rumors. There are a few questions for you, sir. First question is, how a common person can differentiate what is rumor, what is not, in present time where social media is flooded with information on a particular subject?
Yeah. I believe that, I know I can understand. I told you that if senior people can also, kind of fall prey to that, common people can. But we need to have a media literacy program. Many television channels are now doing this viral search. You have government institutions like PIB, which has a fact-checking news handle where you can actually fact-check. You have UP Police, you have many others who have their own handles to deal with fake news. The International Fact-Checking Network is there, IFCN. But I would say that first and foremost, use your common sense. Is it possible? Can it happen? that is something very commonsensical question that you should ask. That is it possible? That's first question. Two, please ensure that the information that comes from a credible, reputed handle. It's not something that comes from an obscure, unknown website or a source. So you have to ensure it comes from a credible. Tomorrow you can actually put them to task. That kind of a website has to be there. Thirdly, you can always don't verify, don't confirm, believe in a news unless it is confirmed by 2 or 3 sources. You can Google it, check it whether other handles are also carrying it or not. That's very important. Images are creating the maximum damage, whether it's a riot or a lynching or whatever, and images are being morphed. Images are being morphed, videos are being doctored. So it's very important that images from Afghanistan or Iraq are being shown as from Kashmir or from Chhattisgarh, or I don't know, n number of things. What you need to do is to actually drag the image and go to a reverse image search in the Google engine, so you can find out, whether that image has actually been taken from some other source and is being projected as something. So 10-year-old images are being used, 20-year-old images are being used, and stories are being, all kinds of stories you find on the social media. I totally agree. It's difficult, but I've always believed that media literacy program has to be there right from the school curriculum, because our kids, thanks to online media education also, are getting exposed to internet like anything, and we need to educate them, we need to teach them, and it's very important. I'm sorry, there are so many other tips which I would have loved to share, but maybe for some other session.
The next question is, do you think there is need to train local people in disaster-prone areas, and what steps were taken in this direction?
In what
this
steps?
direction,
Okay, what
steps?
steps? Well, I'm sure all organizations are taking a lot of steps in terms of media literacy. But yes, you need to sensitize people. They need to understand. They need to actually know whom to communicate to. And what kind of communication to believe in. It's very important, particularly in the danger zones. In the seismic zones, in the flood prone areas. You need to tell them कि आप उसी में यकीन करिए, आप आकाशवाणी में विश्वास रखिए, आप ऑल इंडिया रेडियो में विश्वास रखिए, आप जो समाचार सुनते हैं इधर उधर की बातों में मत जाइए. You need to have, like I always say that, there are these legal assistance camps that are being set up in villages, legal aid camps. Similarly, we should have communication, camps which should be set up, and we should be telling that what to believe and what not to believe. We need to tell them how to communicate, where to communicate. You see, people actually search for information, but they should know where to search for authentic information. That is the most important thing. Information is there everywhere, but people do not know where to go. So that is important, that people should know where to go, and that is our responsibility as media persons also, to tell them that that is why whenever there is a disaster, there is a railway mishap, there is an air crash, immediately on all television channels we flash the emergency contact numbers, so that people can call up those numbers. But we as media persons should also check whether those numbers work or not, whether those helpline numbers work or not. That also we need to see. Yes.
Last question is there any mechanism in India to control rumors spread through media?
Well, you see, I at least have, if the mainstream media does, yes, you can always complain. Under the Press and Registration of Books Act, PRB Act, the editor of the publication is responsible, for all the content. So you can actually complain to the Press Council of India. You can complain to the national, broadcast editors. You can complain to the NBSA, National, Broadcast Service Authority. So you have all these in terms of advertisements. You have, the Advertising Standards Council of India, ASCI. All those things are there. But I believe that it is the key is awareness. Awareness is the key. If awareness is there, I believe that yes, but complain, I at least am not in favor of, governments, state or central, sitting in controlling positions, I don't think that they should get into this, because that would be a kind of, because there are a lot of good things also. There are people who actually say that WhatsApp is doing it, but let me tell you that WhatsApp also, kind of helps people in communicating a lot of stuff. So I believe that, there are positive and negative. It's like fire. It can help you cook food, and it can uh, house affair. So I think that it's very important that the good part of it is taken, and we sensitize people about the negative aspects.
Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and enlightening us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Our next and last speaker of today's session is Mr. Raju Thapa. He is currently associated as young professional with Center for Early Warning and Communication, GMR Division, NIDM. Prior to this, he has worked as a research fellow in Department of Science and Technology, Science and Engineering Research Board, and Board of Research in Nuclear Science, Department of Atomic Energy sponsored major projects. Mr. Thapa has spent more than 40 research publications and book chapters in some of the leading journals under the publisher of Elsewhere, Taylor, Francis, and Springer, etc. He has expertise in the field of remote sensing, GIS, its application to water resources, containment, hydrogeology, groundwater potential mapping, and landslide assessment. Over to you, Raju.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful introduction. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, sir. I will share my presentation. Is it visible, sir?
Now it's visible, Raju.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Wait, I will make it full screen. So, in this session, I will be discussing the basics of early warning and communication, and its roles and responsibilities. Like earlier session, Brigadier Ajay Gangwarji, he was very beautifully described the early warning dissemination role. So in this session, we will try to learn some about the basics of early warning and communication. So as we all know that number and the severity of natural disasters is rising as the climate undergoes changes and as the world population continue to increase. That this trend is exaggerated by population clustering in vulnerable areas by the degree of the environment and by the expansion of areas at risk due to climate change. And early warning strategy are the set of measures taken to increase resilience towards disaster. If correctly implemented, early warning communication can help to reduce losses of life and property and to minimize environmental damages. Early warning in collaboration and combination with media and communication system, it play a very important role in disaster management. And by disseminating informations about disasters, educating public about disaster, highlighting vulnerable areas, spreading warning and alert, also reporting various disaster events, etc. This continuous and factual coverage disaster event by media, it will immediately after a disaster ad or response, it will increase the tendency of getting a response, and also it will help in decision making activities, thereby saving more life and property. There are many examples where media has come up as a very useful tool in early warning and prediction, like in 1977, the cyclone in Andhra Pradesh killed more than 10,000 people, while a similar storm in the same area after 13 years, it killed around only less than 1,000 people. This this drastic change, this drastic change in the death was due to the fact that there was a new early warning system connected with the radio station to alert the people in the low-lying area of the Andhra Pradesh, which was put in place there. So disaster threaten especially those segment of the people which is more vulnerable, largely because they are both highly sensitive to hazard and also have very limitation capabilities to cope up with the resulting impact. So, like we have discussed, early warning system is a very complex process. It aims at reducing the impact of natural hazard by producing timely and relevant information in a systematic way. Uh, if early warning system can contribute to increase the resilience of developing countries to natural disaster and climate related risk, and offering simultaneous support to the achievement of the three global agendas that we have heard for the last 3 days, that the Paris Agreement, the Sustainable Development Goal, and the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. The Paris Agreement, approved in the 21st UN Climate Change Conference, has made very clear the intention of the international community to channel the energies and financial resource to rather reducing the greenhouse emission and to advance adaptation to climate change. This was the main goal. Beside this, also, like, the group also argued to keep the global temperature increase below 2 degrees Celsius, and they also focus that we should strengthen our scientific knowledge on climate, including research, scientific observations of the climate system, and we should focus more in early warning communication in a manner that it will inform climate service and support decision making. And with the adoption of sustainable development goals, the linkage between the climate change and the disaster become more clearer. Like there are 17 goals in sustainable development, and the goal 13 of the sustainable development, it encourages the spreading of early warning system to reduce climate change related hazard by strengthening the resilience and adaptive capability to climate related hazard and natural disaster in in a country. And it also focuses on improving the education awareness rising and human and institution capacity on climate change mitigation, adaptation, or reduction and early warning. With the adoption of a Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction by the World Conference on Disaster Reduction, the importance of early warning was not only the disaster risk reduction, but for sustainable development generally was the sustainable framework highlights its several targets and 4 priorities for action, uh, specific priorities action to undertake for a risk resilient society. Though the 7th target in disaster risk reduction, the Sendai framework, I which you have heard of, like, it addresses the early warning through its recommendation to substantially increase the availability of and access to multi-hazard early warning system and disaster risk information and assessment to the people by the 2030. So in the figure, uh, these three global agenda all together, they have created a comprehensive framework to reduce the climate and risk vulnerability and increase resilience. Indian Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has outlined a 10-point agenda for efforts towards risk reduction in an address he delivered at the Asian Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in 2006. The PM 10-point agenda, it ingested holistic approach in coherence of Sendai framework, sustainable development goal, and Paris agreement, which just we have discussed in the disaster management framework, which provided direction to address all the unprecedented challenges and prevent the adverse impact of disaster on communities, development, and prosperity. In his 10-point agenda, Sri Narendra Modi provided direction to address the challenges of disaster and underline the need to invest in risk mapping, globally to improve global understanding of nature and disaster risk. He also emphasized on leveraging technology to enhance the efficiency of disaster risk management effort, and he underlined the importance to utilize the opportunity provided by the social media and mobile technology, like our speaker yesterday, Sri Anil Katherji, and also KG. Just now, our my earlier speaker has highlighted the importance of that social media. We should use the opportunity provided by the social media and this mobile technology in the field of disaster management, which was covered in detail. Early warning for disaster risks reduction is a legitimate matter of public policy at national level for two main reasons. The first one clearly is public safety and the protection of human life. The second is the protection of the national resource base and productive assets such as infrastructures, private property, or investment, and to ensure the long-term development and economic growth. Conversely, by reducing the impact of disaster, a government avoids the financial or political burden of massive rehabilitation costs, because to build back something, the cost is much higher. Investing in early warning and other measures of disaster reduction is neither simple nor expensive, but the benefits of doing so and the cost of failing to are considerable. So here, as the definition highlights, the early warning system is much more than just predicting. In combination with networking for transmitting warning to the public. For any early warning system to be effective, it includes four major parts. That is risk knowledge, monitoring and warning services, dissemination and communication, and so we will just go one by one. Risk knowledge. Risk arises from the combination of hazard and vulnerability at the particular location. For this region, risk knowledge is a key element in successful early warning communication. Risk is defined as the interplay between establishing organizational arrangements, and risk knowledge is the, you can say in a very layman, that it's the baseline that is needed for undertaking any further action. And when addressing end user through an early warning system, it is fundamental that the importance and potential of the system are well understood by the community itself. Because once you release some early warning or message, are unable to process the information or the message that has been transferred, then the implementation of that message won't be that effective. So it is always better that the end user or the last mile or the community for whom the message is delivered, they are able to understand and act according to that measure, according to that information. To achieve, the public must be informed about risk communication channel and emergency plan. While addressing end user and early warning system, it is also fundamental that the importance and the potential of the system are understood. Now, moving on to the second component, that is monitoring and warning services. Like that, what often it comes to our mind while talking about the early warning system. This is the infrastructure delivers forecast and warning. Monitoring is the act of collecting information alongside along with a set of proxy variables related to risk such as rain, or you can say like for in earthquakes like seismic. This can be done through direct or indirect observation. And more technology provides the possibility of compiling this data that has been collected from our monitoring sources, and process that very highly speedily, and that will give some meaningful information to that data collected. And one promising monitoring system is the emerging practice of like sourcing data through social media. Where yesterday also our speaker, they have highlighted the importance of social media. So numerous research has been experimented with exploiting various forms of social media or a built-in startup in startup nascent disaster. For I would like to share like an example of the success. There's a system called that was started by Italian Research and Innovation Center. iResearch, it was developed a strategy to upgrade risk management system. In particular, like it was a crowdsourcing app where the crowd, they use by the use of their social media, they give the data to the system, which can be used later in the process of disaster risk reduction. Like they collect that data and they make it open source data so that can be used for further analysis or research. So this type of data collection can be very especially helpful for gathering large database from the stockholders like personally affected by the disaster, while also adding some local specific knowledge to the provided information. Countries historically, weather information and infrastructure already exists, but may belong to very different institutions. And so all different institutions have data, but we have to find a way of coordinating among ourselves so that data can be exchanged between each other. And sharing of data is one of the most important, or I can say one of the very crucial point in success early warning system. And about the dissemination of information, our respected speaker, Sri Brigadier Ajay Gangwarji, very nicely highlighted all the means and modes of dissemination. So I know I don't need to focus here, but here I would like to highlight that like yesterday also Sri Rajiv Kumar Shukla ji, they have highlighted that inappropriate communication and dissemination of warning usually result in inappropriate action. Like historically, if you see, most failure in early warning system occurs due to the miscommunication, equipment or infrastructure failure. So which further it underscored the gravity of the element. So the question is the message and the information that passes from one level to another, whether vertically or horizontally, should be very clear so that the recipient of that message can act properly. Like several authors, they have highlighted uh, that any warning and messages issued in disaster situations should have this basic information. They call it the 5 W's in any early warning system. That is, who is it about? What is it going to happen? When will it take place? Where will it take place? But some other authors, they are also added a sixth question, that is how it is going to take place. But this how can be answered by what, when, and where. So this is also known as the 5 W's of to conclude, the last component that should be considered in any early warning system plan is the response capacity. To succeed in promoting a response into early warning, it is very vital that endangered trust in early warning system, because in fact, like the response can be undermined and repeatedly call for action in situation when there was actually not need of any early warning. So therefore, an early warning system should also include routine to like routine drills, routine teamwork or group task or activities, so that there is a establishment of truth among the warning issue organization and the community for whom the message is issued, and that will also minimize the false or unnecessary emergency warning also. So preparedness and prompt response can be additionally enhanced through like just I said, drilling and training. And response capacity also need to take into consideration that that fact that all people should receive the same protection regardless of their gender, age, education, or disability. So with this, I will end my presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raju. for highlighting basic components, importance and need of early warning system, procedure, roles, responsibilities of different holders in early warning and communication of disaster. You also provided insights on some international frameworks for disaster risk reduction, including Sendai framework, Sustainable Development Goals, and Paris Agreement for climate change. Now we move ahead for our final session of the training program. For validation session, we have Sri S.B. Mukesh, ADG, NABM, and Major General M.K. Bindal, Executive Director, NIDM. But before I request our dignitaries for their address, I will quickly provide a brief summary of all 3 days of the training program. On the first day of the training program, we had 2 sessions, inaugural and technical one. A welcome address by Professor Surya Prakash, head GMR division NIDM, in which he provided insights about the training program to the participants. Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, VSM, in his address provided insights on the positive effects of media in disaster management, citing example from current COVID-19 pandemic and how media can help to achieve the goal of last mile connectivity in terms of enhancing the public awareness towards disaster risk, disseminating early warning, and preparing the community to face the crisis. Further, Sri S.B. Mukesh, ADG and NABM, in his address highlighted the impact of disasters on human life, physical, biological, social environment by giving examples of Kedarnath tragedy, Lathur earthquake, Odisha cyclone. He also highlighted the role of media and communication in saving the lives and minimizing their impacts on the communities. During the technical session of day first, Professor Surya Prakash, head GMRD division and IDM, discussed the role of communication and media in disaster management. Besides highlighting different components of media and communication, he shared the vision and aims of national policies on disaster management, national disaster management guidelines on information and communication. Our next speaker of the day, Dr. R. Sridhar, shared his expertise on role of radio in disaster management, highlighting the vital role of radio disaster awareness and mitigation. He emphasized the need to declare a national disaster FM frequency. The last speaker of the first day, Dr. Manoj Patia, advisor NCASC, presented scientific perspective of disaster and risk communication and advocated to provide appropriate information at micro level to minimize the further risk. On the second day, we had 3 speakers. First lecture was taken by myself, discussing the role of social media in various aspects of emergency awareness, preparedness to connect, discuss, share knowledge in specific fields. Further, Dr. Sandeep Barua, scientist at Vigyan Prasad, briefed about the ham radio with live demonstration and mentioned handiness of ham radio when in any emergency situation, all other means of communication are hampered. The last speaker of the second is Shri Rajiv Kumar Shukla, former ADG of All India Radio, talk about the role of radio in disaster management, while highlighting the crucial role of media in disaster risk prevention. For warning coverage, he mentioned the importance of radio during a disaster. Today, on third day of training program, the first lecture was given by Brigadier Ajay Gangwar, Advisor Operations and Communication and DMA. He shared importance of early warning dissemination in reducing the impacts of forthcoming disaster, various tools that can be used to disseminate early information of disasters, as well as issues and challenges related to early warning dissemination and their options and options to overcome those issues. The next speaker of today was Professor K.G. Suresh, Senior Journalist and Communication Specialist. He provided insights on rumors, reasons, ways they can spread, and how we can manage those rumors. Our last speaker of the day, Mr. Raju Thapa, Young Professional, GMR Division, and ITM, discussed basic components, importance, and need of early warning system, as well as procedure, role, responsibilities of different stakeholders in early warning and communication of disasters. So this was the succinct of the 3 days online training program on media and Disaster Management. Now, I would request Sri S.P. Mukesh, ADG, NABM, for his valedictory address. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, DSM, Executive Director, National Institute for Disasters Management. Professor Surya Prakash, NIDM, Shri Raju Thapa, Young Professional, NIDM, Shri P. Das, GDG, NABM, Dr. Kumar Shankar Singh, ex NABM, distinguished speakers and participants of this 3-day online training on media and disasters management. Namaskar. We had started on a very useful and necessary learning endeavor last Wednesday, that is 19th August 2020, and today we have come to the end of it. I touched upon some important points in my inaugural address to you all, and I am happy that they have been dealt with in details in these 3 days online training. Dr. Surya Prakash had set the tone of this online training. Professor K.G. Suresh had spoken about humor management and ethics in disasters communication. Shri Rajiv Shukla had elaborated on the media policy on disasters management, all in the report. Radio being the only dependable medium of communication in times of crisis. Shri Anil Katz had spoken about social media and disasters management. Social media is the new media, but then we have to use it with discretion, especially in times of crisis. HM radio is also very useful in disasters management, and I'm sure Dr. Sandeep Barua must have had talked about them in details. After the great earthquake in Lathur, among the first to respond were MHA radio operators from Mumbai and Hyderabad. The Mumbai-based JNA Wireless Association undertook a special mission, and a group of 8 Mumbai-based radio HMS escorted the supplies convoy from Mumbai to a place near Lathur, where all the other communications lines were non-functional. Dr. R. Sridhar had deliberated upon digital media communication in disaster situation. Shri Raju Thapa, the coordinator of this online training, talked about the roles, responsibilities, and procedure of early warnings and communication on disasters. Dr. Manoj Butaria discussed on disasters communication with focus on scientific aspects, and Brigadier Ajay Gangwar on national guidelines on disasters communication. I thank you all the distinguished speakers for the wisdom they shared with the participants. I'm sure the participants had gained immensely from this online training, which was a joint endeavor of the National Institute of Disasters Management, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, and the National Academy of Broadcasting and Multimedia, Prasar Bharati, Delhi. Now we are ready to face disasters as and when they strike, so that there is minimal loss of life and property of the citizens of our motherland. I hope the participants from All India Radio and Doordarshan, Prasar Bharati, will put the knowledge gained from this training for the cause of public service broadcasting, and also for the safety of themselves and their near and dear ones. I would like to thank all of you from National Institute of Disasters Management who have put in their valuable contribution to make this online training a success, and to Major General M.K. Bindal, DSM, and Professor Surya Prakash for having taken the initiative to conduct this online training jointly with NABM Prasar Bharati. I would also like to compliment Shri P. Das, DDG, NABM, and Dr. Kumar Shankar Singh, Program Executive, NABM Delhi, for the efforts they put into this online training. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir. Major General M.K. Bindal, Executive Director NIDM, was supposed to join us, but due to his preoccupied assignments and busy schedule, he is not able to join us. Now, I would request Dr. Harjeet Kaur, Young Professional, National Institute of Disaster Management, to propose vote of thanks. Over to you, Harjeet.
Thank you very much, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. I, on behalf of National Institute of Disaster Management, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the Honorable Distinguished Speaker, Shri Ajay Gangwar ji, Professor K.G. Suresh, and Mr. Raju Thapa. Also, I would like to extend a special thanks to ED NIDM Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal and Professor Surya Prakash, Head GMR Division NIDM, for providing innovative and encouraging environment, moral guidance, continuous enthusiasm, and valuable suggestion throughout NIDM endeavors. I would also like to thank Shri S.B. Mukesh, ADG, NABM, for his support in organizing this webinar series. I am also thankful to Uma Shankar ji for his support and coordination. I heartily congratulate all the participants for their active participation in this event, as no program become successful with a single person. So I extend my big thanks to our GMRD team, Mr. Raju Thapa, coordinator of the program, Mr. Anil Kathar, and IT team for making this program a successful event with their contribution. I extend my thanks to all the participants for being a part of this important 3-day program. Now, our coordinator, Mr. Raju Thapa, will assist all the participants regarding the feedback form and certificate. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harjeet. This is to inform the participant that National Institute of Disaster Management, in collaboration with Snow and Avalanche Studies, Establishment, Defense Research and Development Organization, Ministry of Defense, is organizing a webinar on snow and avalanche forecasting and management on 25th August 2020 from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Interested participant can join us in that webinar.
Anil sir, should I take over for the helping participant?
Yes, you can take over.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So I think all participants